The dog barked. Then the woman stood in the doorway, and hearing iron strike stone down the steep road, covered her head with a black shawl, and entered the light rain. She stood at the turn of the road, a nobly formed woman, erect and strong as a new tower, the features stolid and dark, but sculptured into a strong grace, straight nose with a high bridge, firm and wide eyes, full chin, red lips. She was only a fourth part Indian. A Scottish sailor had planted her in young native earth, Spanish and Indian, 21 years before. He had named her California when she was born. That was her name, and had gone north. She heard the hooves and wheels come nearer up the steep road. The buckskin mare leaning against the breastpiece plodded into sight round the wet bank. The pale face of the driver followed. The burnt-out eyes, they had fortune in them. He sat twisted on the seat of the old buggy, leading a second horse by a long halter, a roan, a big one that stepped daintily by the swell of the neck, a stallion. "What have you got, Johnny?" "Masquerel stallion. Mine now. I won him last night. I had very good luck." He was quite drunk. "They bring their mares up here now. I keep this fellow. I got money besides, but I'll not show you." "Did you buy something, Johnny, for our Christine? Christmas comes in 2 days, Johnny." "Oh, by God, forgot," he answered, laughing. "Don't tell Christine it's Christmas. After a while I get her something, maybe." "But, California, I shared your luck when you lost. You lost me once, Johnny, remember? Tom Dell had me 2 nights here in the house. Other times we've gone hungry. Now that you've won, Christine will have her Christmas. We share your luck, Johnny. You give me money, I go down to Monterey tomorrow, buy presents for Christine, come back in the evening. Next day's Christmas." "You have wet ride," he answered, giggling. "Here, money. $5, $10, $12. You buy 2 bottles of rye whiskey for Johnny." "All right. I go tomorrow." He was an outcast Hollander, not old, but shriveled with bad living. The child, Christine, inherited from his race blue eyes, from his life a wizened forehead. She watched from the house door her father lurch out of the buggy and lead with due respect the stallion to the new corral, the strong one, leaving the wearily breathing buckskin mare to his wife to unharness. Storm in the night. The rain on the thin shakes of the roof, like the ocean on rocks, streamed battering. Once thunder walked down the narrow canyon into Carmel Valley and wore away westward. Christine was wakeful with fears and wonders. Her father lay too deep for storm to touch him. Dawn comes late in the year's dark, later into the crack of a canyon under redwoods, and California slipped from bed an hour before it. The buckskin would be tired. There was a little barley, and why should Johnny feed all the barley to his stallion? That's what he'd do. She tiptoed out of the room, leaving her clothes. He'd waken if she waited to put them on, and passed from the door of the house into the dark of the rain. The big black drops were cold under the thin shift, but the wet earth pleasant under her naked feet. There was a pleasant smell in the stable, and moving softly, touching things gently with a supple bend of the unclothed body, was pleasant. She found a box, filled it with sweet dry barley, and took it down to the old corral. The little mare sighed deeply at the rail in the darkness, and California, returning between 2 redwoods up to the house, heard the happy jaws grinding the grain. Johnny could mind the pigs and the chickens. Christine called to her when she entered the house, but slept again under her hand. She laid the wet night-dress on a chair back and stole into the bedroom to get her clothes. A plank creaked, and he wakened. She stood motionless, hearing him stir in the bed. When he was quiet, she stooped after her shoes, and he said softly, "What are you doing? Come back to bed." "It's late. I'm going to Monterey. I must hitch up." "Come to bed first. I've been away 3 days. I give you money. I take back the money, and what do you do in town?" She sighed sharply and came to the bed. He, reaching his hands from it, felt the cool curve and firmness of her flank, and half rising caught her by the long wet hair. She endured, and to hasten the act she feigned desire. She had not for long, except in dream, felt it. Yesterday's drunkenness had made him sluggish and exacting. She saw, turning her head sadly, the windows were bright grey with dawn. He embraced her still, stopping to talk about the stallion. At length she was permitted to put on her clothes. Clear daylight over the steep hills, grey shining cloud over the tops of the redwoods. The winter streams sang loud. The wheels of the buggy slipped in deep slime, ground on washed stones at the road edge. Down the hill the wrinkled river smothered the ford. You must keep to the bed of stones. She knew the way by willow and alder. The buckskin halted midstream, shuddering, the water her own color washing up to the traces. But California, drawing up her feet out of the whirl onto the seat of the buggy, swung the whip over the yellow water and drove to the road. All morning the clouds were racing northward like a river. At noon they thickened. When California faced the south wind home from Monterey, it was heavy with level rainfall. She looked seaward from the foot of the valley. Red rays cried sunset from a trumpet of streaming cloud over Lobos, the southwest occident of the solstice. Twilight came soon, but the tired mare feared the road more than the whip. Mile after mile of grey twilight. Then, quite suddenly, darkness. Christine will be asleep. It's Christmas Eve. The ford, that hour of daylight wasted this morning. She could see nothing. She let the reins lie on the dashboard, and knew at length by the cramp of the wheels and the pitch down they had reached it. Noise of wheels on stones, plashing of hooves in water, a world of sounds, no sight. The gentle thunder of the water, the mare snorting, dipping her head, one knew to look for footing in the blackness under the stream. The hushing and creaking of the sea wind in the passion of invisible willows. The mare stood still. The woman shouted to her, spared the whip, for a false leap would lose the track of the ford. She stood. The baby's things, thought California, under the seat. The water will come up over the floor. And rising in the midst of the water, she tilted the seat, fetched up the doll, the painted wooden chickens, the woolly bear, the book of many pictures, the box of sweets. She brought them all from under the seat and stored them, trembling, under her clothes, about her breasts, under the arms, the corners of the cardboard boxes cut into the soft flesh. But with a piece of rope for a girdle and wound about the shoulders, all was made fast. The mare stood as if asleep in the midst of the water. Then California reached out a hand over the stream and fingered her rump. The solid, wet convexity of it shook like the beat of a great heart. "What are you waiting for?" But the feel of the animal surface had wakened a dream, obscured real danger with a dream of danger. "What for? For the water stallion to break out of the stream? That's what the rump strains for. Him to come up flinging foam sidewise, 4 hooves in air, crush me and the rig and curl over his woman." She flung the whip out then. The mare plunged forward. The buggy drifted sidelong. Was she off the ground? Swimming? No, by the splashes. The driver, a mere prehensile instinct, clung to the side irons of the seat and felt the force, but not the coldness of the water, curling over her knees, breaking up to the waist over the body. They'd turned. The mare had turned upstream and was wallowing back into shoal water.